Hi, everyone. My name is Anthony Ruggiano, and in 1988, I was struggling with addiction, and I went into a treatment center. I set up a helpline number, which is 855-963-2113. That's 855-963-2113. That number, phones will be manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you're struggling with addiction, or you know someone that is struggling with addiction, please call that number and let me help. I will be hands-on. I will be personally involved in the person's recovery. They will meet me. They will spend time with me, and I will help them live a life beyond their wildest dreams. Just want to let everybody know the shirts are in, Reformed Gangsters. If you want to purchase one, please go to my website, anthonyruggiano.com, and order your shirt. Come get them. They're hot. Hello, everybody. My name is Anthony Ruggiano. I want to welcome everybody to Reformed Gangsters. And if you like our content, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. I would appreciate it. And join our Patreon, become a Patreon member, where you could get Mafia history and ask me direct questions and listen to my full videos, all the content. So that would be great if you subscribe to that. We have a couple of questions that people sent in. I'm going to answer them, and then I want to discuss something of importance to myself and to many people out there that's going on today in our country. So let's get to it.
All right. So Louis, one of the Patreon members, asked, can you tell us anything on the following wise guys? Sonny Chacon, Alphonse Siska, John Ambrosio, or Sal Scala?
Well, the first one, I met him a couple of times, very powerful captain. I don't really know him personally. Johnny Ambrosio, he was with my father. I know him since I'm a kid. He straightened out the Gambino family. I don't really have anything really nice to say about him, so I don't really want to say much about him. He was around my father. My father never proposed him. After my father passed away, he was very close to Mikey Gal, Tony Lee's cousin, and he was very close to Pete Gotti, and they straightened him out. My father would have never proposed him. He's been a bookmaker his whole life. He comes from Huntington, Long Island. My father had a few criminal cases with him back in the day. He was the reason why my father went to live in Florida, because he kept on getting subpoenaed over him in Nassau County over his bookmaking business. And my father had to actually leave New York for a while because he kept on getting bids for contempt of court because of Johnny Boy. And eventually he got indicted in Florida because he was, had to stay down there to avoid all these subpoenas over Johnny Boy's bookmaking operation. But he's still around. I think he just got out of prison recently. He's still out there. But yeah, he's all right. I know him for a lot of years. Sal, very dangerous guy, powerful captain, a lot of money, very, very dangerous man. I know him for many years. Good guy, always treated me well. Got along really well with my father and Tony Lee. I knew some guys around him, guys he was partners with. I think he was like a major heroin dealer too at one time, but a good guy, dangerous. Next question.
Yeah, Rob's asking, do you think Tony Lee knew the plan on Paul before it was done, or he put the pieces together when it came on the news?
Oh, no, Tony Lee was in on it from the beginning. Tony Lee was in on it from the beginning. He just wasn't at the scene, but he was in on it from the beginning because Tony Pep was in on it from the beginning. Anthony Trent Acosta was in on it. He was one of the guys in the street. He actually got straightened out behind it. So Tony Pep was one of Tony Lee's main guys, and Tony Lee was in on it from Jump Street. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that.
And then one of the main questions we got on the Quack Quack video was everyone was surprised that he got his nickname because of the way he walked.
Well, that's because it's never really was talked about, but he was called Quack Quack since he was a kid, years and years before those tapes came out. I mean, he was called Quack Quack from when I was a little kid. When I first met him, when I was 12, 13 years old, he was called Quack Quack. That was the 1960s. So common sense is he never got the nickname because of the tapes. He got the nickname because of the way he walked, like a duck. He waddled. That's how he got the name. So whoever says that I don't know what I'm talking about or whatever, evidently they don't know what they're talking about, probably because the guy's been called Quack Quack since the 1960s, as far as I know. So I mean, there was no tapes in the 1960s. He wasn't even made yet. He wasn't even a made member. He was just an associate when I met him. So, you know, the reason why he was called Quack Quack was because of the way he walked, as far as I know. You know, I don't. So, I mean, I don't understand why people keep saying that. Yeah, he did have a big mouth. And yeah, he did talk a lot. And yeah, he did talk on phones like he wasn't supposed to. Yeah, there were terrible tapes, without a doubt. But I don't believe that's the reason why he got the nickname. Because like I said, he was called Quack Quack in the 1960s. And how do I know that? Because that's when I met him. So so let's figure it out. I mean, what else is there to say?
All right, here's another one. Tommy Karate, was he the trigger man on Willie Boy?
No. Why would Tommy Karate be the trigger man on Willie Boy when Tommy Karate was in a completely different crime family? From what I understand, the shooter on Willie Boy, probably Sammy the Bull could answer that question better than me, was Eddie Leno. That's as far as I heard, was Eddie Leno was the shooter. He was a captain with the Gambinos with John Gotti, a good friend of mine. As far as I know, Eddie Leno was the shooter. I could be wrong. I don't know, but I never heard Tommy Karate was involved in it, and I don't see why he would be involved in it when it was a family matter. It was a Gambino family matter, and I think John had enough killers around him that he didn't need Tommy Karate to kill somebody for him.
All right. And Rob's asking, do you think the feds figured out John had an apartment above the Ravenite, or was there a rat in the crew that let him know?
No, there was a confidential informant. I mean, that's well documented. They had a bug inside the Ravenite, and what was happening was every so often they would lose John's voice for a couple of hours, and they didn't know how that was happening until a confidential informant said he was going upstairs. And how that happened is when you looked in the front door of the Ravenite, you couldn't see, but in the back of the Ravenite, there was a door. On the left-hand side of the Ravenite, in the back, there was a bathroom and there was a door. The doorway led out into the hallway of the building, and you couldn't see it from the front of the building. So John was going out that back door up the steps to the second floor. And a confidential informant gave all that information to the feds, and that's how the apartment upstairs got bugged.
Do we know who the informant was?
Never found out. I know, maybe they know by now. I doubt it. I have no idea. It was someone that was hanging out in there, probably a paid informant. I mean, back then the feds had a ton of money. They were paying people crazy money they offered me $1,000 a week to be a confidential informant. Of course, I said no at the time. And I was a nobody. So, I mean, who knows?
Joe Watts?
What about him?
You think it was him?
No. Confidential informant? No. It could have been, I don't know who it could have been. I don't think it was Joe Watts. No, I don't think Joe Watts is an informant. I mean, I know there's wires on him, but I don't know. I like Joe Watts. I mean, he was, I got along good with him. I mean, I spent some time with him. I went out drinking with him a couple of times. I had a few meals with him because I was driving Tony Lee around, and we would go meet him and John Gotti a lot. Tony didn't really have too much love for him because Tony Lee felt that it was disrespectful to have Joe Watts kill wise guys because he wasn't Italian, he wasn't a made member. Tony was very old school when it came to crazy stuff, stuff like that. He felt like friends, if a friend had to die, it should be at the hands of another friend, not somebody from England or Germany, wherever the hell he came from. I think he came from Germany.
And what about the notion that Angelo Ruggiero got shelved for putting a hit on gas pipe?
They did try to kill Gas Pipe. That's why that poor kid got kidnapped. Sammy the Bull talks about that in the, really, really well. He has all, because they went to him, Joe Butch and Jimmy Brown and them went to him and met with Gas Pipe and actually saw Heidel prisoner and left him there. Sammy talks about that, which I agree 100% with Sammy. They should have never left the kid there. They should have made Gas Pipe give them the kid. They left the kid there and the kid got tortured. I know Angelo got shelved. I always heard it was over the tapes, over him talking on the phones. I guess it was a matter of a lot of things. I don't think they put a hit on. I don't think they tried to kill Gas Pipe without John knowing about it. I don't think that's what happened. They never liked Gas Pipe. A lot of people didn't like Gas Pipe or Ficamuso. I know Nicky Carrazza, who was around my father, who was a captain, my co-defendant, he hated Gas Pipe. He hated them because they killed Bruno. They took him out of his, where he had his horses in Canarsie. They were very, very good friends, Bruno Fasciola. They were really, really good friends with him. When they became the boss and underboss, they said he was an informant, which he probably never was, and they killed him. They snuck a canary up his ass. I mean, they did a horrible thing to him, so there was never no love between the Lucchese's and the Gambinos. I mean, so it could be. It probably was I would say it was a number of a lot of things. Sammy would know better than me why he actually got shelved, but I always knew that the tapes had a big part of it.
And William Shakespeare at 9815 is asking, Sammy said John used to go out clubbing every night and not get out of bed until 1 p.m. And Angelo ran his crew in his absence. Is that true?
Yeah, John was a partier. He didn't go out. He went out every night. He was out every night. He used to come. They used to put a garbage pail in front of the Bergen Fish Club for his car. And he would always show up there 1 o'clock in the afternoon, get his hair done, change. He liked to go out. He liked to drink, martinis. He spent a lot of time in Richie's Cafe, his brother's cafe around the corner, but he liked to go to, I went to many clubs with him. I went to Club A with him many times, Regimes many times. I went to Pastels with him many times in Brooklyn. He liked to party. He liked to go out. He liked to drink. He liked to fellowship. He liked to be seen. He liked to be seen. Yeah. But, that was, what was he supposed to come out 8 o'clock in the morning? I went out 8 o'clock in the morning because I was a thief. I went out at 8 o'clock in the morning because I didn't have people bringing me shopping bags full of money. So I had to go out and get it. You know what I mean? So I got up 8 o'clock in the morning, and guys in my position got up 8 o'clock in the morning. But if I was in his position, I wouldn't have got up 8 o'clock in the morning. But he liked to party. My father loved to party. Tony Lee loved to party. The Copa. I remember the first time I ran into John at the Copa. I was a kid. I was at the Copa, and he was there with Angelo. And I know. Listen, they were all womanizers, and I don't want to, I like his wife, Vicky, and everything. She was a sweetheart to me. She was great with my son, Anthony. She loved my son, Anthony. She loved my first wife, Alice. But, we were all womanizers. And I remember when I was in the 70s, I was at the Copa. After I first met him, maybe a couple of years later, when I started going to the Copa, when I was 17, 18, he was there one night. We were there with my mother, Alice, a couple of us, and we were upstairs in the lounge. And him and Angelo came. I remember like it was yesterday. Him and Angelo came over by themselves to say hello to my father and how young they were. And they were with two people, two females, but they didn't bring the females over because my mother was there. You know what I mean? So they didn't just they wouldn't do that. And they were always out partying. All of them. Me too. I was out every night. That was the life.
But you could just get up early.
Well, I got up early. No, I mean, I got up early when I had to get up early. When I stopped, actually, for me, this only goes for me personally. After I stopped drinking and using cocaine and everything, that's when I started like really getting up real early in the morning and working out and going out early and, making a lot of money. And, my head was in the street. My head was into businesses. making money, and I was out early every morning, and running the streets. I committed more crimes in a day than people commit in their whole lives. I had like so many things going on in one day: chop shops, stolen car rings, credit card fraud rings, vending, gambling machines. I mean, just all in one day. It was crazy.
And then to help transition to your next talking point, J Bow 1488 asks, Mr. Ruggiano, do you ever have a memory or thought that makes you want to pick up and use?
I don't. Well, all the memories are bad. I always, because when you play that tape through, it's always, you always want to think about the bad, because the consequences are what keep you clean and sober. Do I think about using every once in a while? Well, honestly, I would love to have a glass of wine. I would love to go to a nice Italian restaurant, have a glass of wine. I would love to, eat to have all these stores now, these gummies and weed pens, and I would love to sit on my terrace and smoke a joint. I would say I'm a liar if I said I didn't want to do that, or I would say I would be a liar if I didn't tell you I want to go out and have a dirty martini before dinner and then a drambuie on the rocks after dinner. That was my thing. You know what I mean? I would be a liar if I said I didn't want to do that. But for me, and this is only for me, unfortunately, there's consequences for me, because cocaine was my drug of choice. So every time I got a little lit up from alcohol, I always winded up using cocaine, because I crossed over that imaginary line into addiction. So the reason why I choose not to have maybe I can, after 34 years, I just might be able to have a glass of wine. I just may be able to have a dirty martini. I just may be able to have a drambuie on the rocks after dinner. But am I willing to take that chance? Am I willing to take that risk? Because I know if I fail, I know the consequences, and that's what keeps me clean and sober. It's not the using part, because I like to drink. I even used to like to snort coke until it became a problem, to be honest. But I don't like the consequences. So that's why I choose not to give myself any kind of test like that. But yeah, I would love to have a glass of wine. I'm going to a concert tonight. My daughter's taking me to a concert tonight for Father's Day. I'm going to go see Duran Duran. I would love to spark up a joint on the way there, like the old days. You know what I mean? But I just don't. I just don't.
All right. And why don't you tell us what happened this week?
So I don't like to talk politics. Make it a point. This is my political views are mine. Your political views are yours. I don't even like when entertainers do it. I go to a lot of concerts. A lot of fact, my good friend Michael Francis was joking with me today. We were texting back and forth to each other, and I told him I was going to a concert tonight. And a while back, he got me tickets to see Dua Lipa in LA, which was really nice of him. And so he was teasing me, going, "Boy, you really like them concerts," with a smiley face, So I don't like to go. I don't want to hear people's political views. I want to be entertained. I know a couple of people on this genre now speaking on political views, which I agree with totally. And I think we have to. It's to the point where now people like myself and Michael and Sammy and Dominic and Mikey and Johnny. I think it's the point now, to an extent, we need to speak up and say something. Because now we're all productive members of society. We're not mobbed up. We're not committing crimes. We're not killing anybody. We're not hurting nobody. I'm just a productive member of society. I go to work every day. I pay my bills. I pay my taxes. I don't steal. I don't rob. But things are crazy. It's out of control. They got, so this is what happened. This is what really the reason why I feel and I have a need to speak about it. So I work in the rehabilitation industry. I'm not going to say where I work or the name of the facility I work in, but I've been working in treatment in one form or another, in rehab or detox. I've been working in treatment for the past almost 10 years now. As a counselor, as a case manager, as a technician, I worked in a couple of different areas. So I know the business pretty well. I know very well. And the fentanyl and the drugs out there today are killing people. You know, the other day, unfortunately, I was doing rounds in my, unfortunately, sometimes we get some clients that smuggle drugs into the facility, you know, because they're not there for the right reasons. You know, not everybody comes to treatment for the right reasons. Some come because the courts order them to come. Some come to get their families off their backs, their kids off their backs, and some come for the right reason. Unfortunately, we had one young fella, a 29-year-old kid that came for the wrong reason. He smuggled drugs into the facility, and the other morning at 8:30 in the morning, every 30 minutes I have to do a round to check on the clients to make sure they're all breathing and nobody's having seizures. Because when you detox from drugs and alcohol, a lot of times you have seizures. It's just, especially from alcohol and benzos, seizures are like major. So we have to check. So, you know, I opened up the door, and unfortunately, you know, this young fellow was laying in bed in foam, and foam was coming out of his nose and his mouth. And, you know, he passed away. You know, he overdosed not in the treatment center. He overdosed. He was pronounced dead as soon as they got him to the hospital, but I knew that he was in bad shape from when I found him. And I notified the nursing right away. I ran down the hall. They came, they started working on. We did everything we could to save him. You know, and I dealt with a lot of overdoses in the past 10 years, but that was the first fatality. You know, everybody else we pretty much saved with Narcan and whatever else we administered to them. This was the first fatality. And, you know, and I got angry because, you know, I look at the news and I read the newspapers, and these cities, New York, like Mikey talked about it the other day, and I put it on my Facebook and my Instagram. New York City paid $10,000 for 3 vending machines, and they're giving out free crack pipes and clean needles. And Portland, all the drugs are legal. You know, it's insane. We need to get people in treatment. We don't need to enable people to use. Today, fentanyls and everything. People are buying cocaine and overdosing. If I used today, I would be dead. I was just talking to a friend of mine, to Robin Angle, on the phone. And we were talking about when we use drugs, if we use drugs today, like we used drugs back then, we would have been dead. Fentanyls and everything. I tell my clients, the kids I counsel, that they're playing Russian roulette. It's not like in my day, you know, and the government is just enabling people to use. It's insane. Listen, people say, it's only, you know, this is my big argument now. Marijuana is legal all over the country. Oh, it's only marijuana. It's like alcohol. No, it's a gateway drug. And, you know, if you're not supposed to drive drunk, you shouldn't be driving high on marijuana. You know, I just was in LA. I'm always up in New York. You walk through the streets, all you smell is marijuana. It's disgusting. It's everywhere you go, you smell it. People are smoking joints all over. People are walking out, their kids are being exposed. I went to a Yankee game in the Bronx, and across the street from Yankee Stadium, where all the restaurants are and all the souvenir places that I've been going to since 1959, I'm walking down the street with some guys, and all I see is people smoking weed. And there's people there with their little kids walking through clouds of smoke, going to a Yankee game. Like, what's going on here? You know, yeah, you want to make pot legal, make it with some restrictions that you can't stand in front of Yankee Stadium and smoke a joint, where a guy with a 7-year-old son going to his first Yankee game has to be exposed to that atmosphere. I mean, so he could say, Daddy, what is that guy smoking? What's that smell? I mean, people might, you know, when is it, where does it end? You want to buy vending machines for paraphernalia. You want to legalize everything. Listen, and the best part of the whole thing is they stole everything from the mob, the government, everything from the mob. Bookmaking, legitimate Shylocks, Amscott. There's a place up the street for me. $500. You got to bring them back in 2 weeks. $553. They're legitimate Shylocks. I mean, where are we going? You turn on the TV. They lock up Trump. They let go of Clinton. Biden robbing millions. Nobody does nothing, but they're worried about giving free crack pipes out. I mean, it's insane. It's insane. It blows my mind. Instead of the $30,000 they spent on vending machines, they could have put somebody in treatment for that $30,000. People don't need free crack pipes. People don't need free news. They say, oh, it's to curb the diseases. People are going to get diseases anyway. People are going to get STDs. People are going to sell their souls. It's not going to stop anything. It's just a con. That's all it is. Legal marijuana is a con, just like probation was a con. It's all a con. It's at the end. I said this at a show I did 2 years ago on National Geographic. It's all about the dollars. That's what it is. They don't give a shit about you. They don't give a shit about me. It's all about the dollars. They can make money with drugs. They're going to sell drugs. They can make money with bookmaking. They're going to be bookmaking. They can make money with Shylocking. I get every day in my mailbox 10, at least 10 pre-approved loans every day. At least 10 of them every day. And, I could go on and on and on. It just blows my mind. I never thought anything like this would affect my life or take up space in my head, but it's just it's crazy. It's just crazy. It's relentless. It's relentless, and people are dying. That's the sad part about it. People are dying, and the people in charge don't understand. They don't understand what they're doing. They don't understand the disease of addiction the way I understand it. I understand it. I lived it. I work with it. They don't understand that they're enabling people to use more drugs. They're enabling more people to die. They're not putting anybody in prison anymore. The laws are lax. They don't want to put nobody in jail. None of the drug dealers are in and out, just like the shoplifters are in and out. They're making it so easy now for addicts to shoplift. It's just on and on and on and on and on. Listen, today marijuana is legal. In the 70s, my brother had a major marijuana business, and he had one of the biggest marijuana businesses in New York City in the 70s. And, guys that dealt pot for him went to prison. One of my best friends, Larry, did a year in the Queens House detention for selling nickel bags in 88th Street Park. Now here we are, 40 years later, 50 years later, and it's legal. Why? Because the government's getting their end. My father told me many years ago that the government was the real mafia. And he was right. And he told me many years ago, don't ever feel sorry for the public. No matter what we do to the public, don't ever feel sorry for them because they vote for these people. And he was right. Fat Andy was right. Unfortunately, Fat Andy was right. So I don't know, it's just it's just a very personal issue for me, and I'm rambling on now about it, but people got to wake up. There's no need to give free crack pipes out. There's no need to give free syringes out. There's no need to legalize drugs. What they need to do is crack down on drug dealers, give them major sentences, put them all in jail, get them off the streets. That's prevention. Prevention, listen, I'm gonna close with this. I was thinking about this last night. Prevention is fear. Okay? What made the mafia great was fear. People feared us. When the mafia was the mafia, people knew that if they messed with the mafia, they got killed. It was fear. Fear drove the engine. That's what made them great. My father told me many years ago that was the biggest thing they got going for them was everybody feared them. And that's what they need to do today with the drugs. They got to make these drug dealers and these cartels fear them. They got to fear the government. And that's the only deterrence, fear. And that's not happening. That's not happening. Nobody fears this government. No criminal out there, not in no Democratic city, not in no liberal city. Maybe in Florida, they fear. Maybe in Texas, they fear. But in these other cities, LA, New York, Chicago, Detroit, they don't fear shit. And people got to wake up. People got to wake up. That's all I have to say on that matter.
What do you say to the person that's they know they got an issue, they know they got to cut it out, but they're just really having a hard time keeping that consistency and quitting for good?
First of all, it's a day at a time. Recovery is a day at a time. And nobody could do it alone. You got to get help. There's 12-step programs out there that work. AA works. Narcotics Anonymous. I went to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting last night. I've been going to Narcotics Anonymous meetings for 35 years. They work. AA works. 12-step programs work. Therapy works. Treatment centers work. Staying clean takes work. Getting high is very easy. We all know how to do that. The easy thing to do is to use. The hard thing to do is not to use. And we all need help not to use. And help's out there. You just got to go get it. You got to reach out for it. I have a helpline. Pick up the phone, go Google it. Listen, when I got clean, there was no Google. There was no internet. There was commercials on TV at 3 o'clock in the morning before they played the national anthem. If anybody remembers that, they played the national anthem and then TV turned to snow till 5 o'clock in the morning. But before the snow came on, there was a commercial with a nose, and under the nose, a plane went up the nose, a car went up the nose, a house went up the nose, and it said, if you have a cocaine problem, call 1-800-COCAINE. And when I hit a bottom, and I came out of my bathroom one morning and sat on the bed and said to God, how did this happen to me? And I was crying. My wife walked into the bedroom and said, what's wrong? And I looked up at her and I said, Alice, I'm dying. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm dying. And that's how I felt, that I was going to die. She goes, what could I do? And I told her, call 1-800-COCAINE. And that commercial saved my life. So today they have smartphones, Google this and that, and boop, bada beep, bada bop. There's, all you got to do is just pick up your phone and go somewhere and do something. So, like I said earlier, I have a helpline. It's 855-963-2113. There's someone there 24/7. If you need help with addiction or someone does, please call that number and let us get you some help. Have a good night.